A car's necessary.
Of course it's necessary.
Why?
Because we live in an era where cars are necessary to get around.
Why?
Because we do. That's just the point.
Young people face harder challenges than previous generations.
So I live with my parents,
Right.
and I'm 23.
Right.
And
You works?
Yes.
Yeah. Presumably you're not paying any rent or mortgage or anything.
I am paying rent.
When I first got my first house, it probably only cost about £23,000 or something, but then I was only earning £300 a year. We worked hard and we didn't have a car and we didn't have a colour telly. I think there's a sense of entitlement there that they expect to have things like cars, holidays, phones, a certain standard of living, which they haven't earned.
So I have a car.
You have a car,
Prices have increased.
So you don't have to have a car, do you? You could get the bus.
Okay, yeah, but that's how I choose to spend my
Exactly,
money.
but then you're saying that you don't have enough money because that's your choice as to what you spend your money on, as to what you see as necessary.
Prices.
So you're telling me a car's necessary?
Of course it's necessary.
Why?
Because we live in an era where cars are necessary to get around.
Why?
Because we do. That's just the point.
So what other alternatives are there then?
Well, you're missing the point.
We didn't have a car
the
until...
world evolved from then
yes,
to
but
now.
you can't manage without a car.
Well, Gen Z is pissed at us boomers, and I can't say that I blame them. There was an article that came out the other day that said you would have to have 5 minimum wage jobs to live in Austin, Texas, to afford the rent there. It's ridiculous. So those of you who say, well, back in 1980, I made $15 an hour and I bought a house. Well, guess what? Adjusted for inflation, your $15 an hour that you made in 1980 would now be over $112,000 a year. You know, most young people I meet, they want to work. A lot of people say, oh, the new generation doesn't want to work and they're lazy. No, that's not true. They're smart. They're smarter than us. They just don't want your crappy $15 an hour job. Now, I'm not here to give any answers, but I'm just saying, I feel you, Gen Z. On the other hand, that one young kid who told me yesterday and commented that I shouldn't be on TikTok, get off my lawn, you little...
So who had it worse off, boomers or Gen Zs? Both think they had the tougher deal. Let's actually take a look at the numbers and see where we end up. So we're going to start with house prices. So house prices in the 1970s would cost you on average about £9,277. In 2023, on average in the UK, it's going to set you back about £286,000. So a 31 times multiplier. On a rent side, we're talking a similar story. So rent costs £55 per month on average in the 1970s. In 2023, we're talking £868 a month, a 16 times multiplier on what it used to be. Petrol, 1 litre would set you back 8 pence in the 1970s, £1.50 in 2023. So we are talking an 18 times multiplier for that one. University, well, actually in the 1970s, public university was actually free in the UK in the 1970s. In 2023, it's going to set you back about £32,000. So I don't know, we'll just put an infinity multiplier for that particular one. But the big question, how does the average salary stack up? Because the big question is, does the multiplier stay consistent with all the other costs of living? Well, the average salary in the 1970s was about £4,836. The average in 2023 was $27,756. So we are talking just a 6 times multiplier increase. And so straight away, you can see actually the cost of living is way more expensive for Gen Zs than it was for people in the 1970s. So that is a hell of a lot of avocado and toast and Netflix subscriptions to make up the deficit of what I would consider just basic necessities to live.
25% of millennials, their parents are paying for their housing in one way or another.
Oh, look, a member of the most entitled and privileged generation in the history of the world is talking about financial situations that millennials are facing. And as millennials are nearing 40 and running out of time to build the kind of wealth that their generation was literally handed, I'm confident he's going to use his obvious platform to talk about the nuances of the financial obstacles that millennials face as a direct result of his generation's decisions and stewardship, and offer some well thought out and fact and statistic based policy solutions that, you know, could help us overcome those obstacles as a society. I'm really confident that that's what he's going to do. I can't imagine any other way that this video could possibly go.
Let me just tell you, moms and dads, not good. Not good for your little millennial.
I agree. Not good, you know, that our generation can't afford basic life necessities like food and shelter and healthcare. I will say, though, little millennial sounded a tad condescending. We're like in our 30s and 40s now. You're shaking my confidence just a tad on where you're going with this, Grandpa.
They are much better off to face some calluses, some stress, some hard times, make some hard choices, stand up and square their shoulders and be a man, be a woman, instead of a child.
There it is. Can we just agree as a society that we need to stop giving microphones to bootstrap boomers? They've said enough dumb shit publicly to last us for ever. All right, Dr. Phil, bad financial advice. What kind of stresses, what kind of calluses do you think that we need to square our shoulders up and face? Would it be like when we were 17, 18 years old and y'all were like, you have to take out all these student loans to go to college. But then you're like, oh, no, but we're not going to help you because, going through this financial strife will make you build character. That's what I did. I got a summer job and I paid for my college education. But then neglected to tell us that your college education was the price of a 10-piece McNugget and your student loans were straightforward, simple interest, set term loans. And that's if you had to take out loans at all, because you basically could get your degree out of a Happy Meal. Maybe you could have given us just a little head warning that you assholes had been voting for the worst education policy humanly imaginable, and the cost of tuition from when you guys went to college to when we went to college went up 3,700%. Then on top of saddling us with exorbitant education costs, y'all decided to go ahead and change how the loans work too. Why should we enjoy the same set limit style loans that you guys got to enjoy when you could give us credit card style loans that we can't file bankruptcy on? Yeah, our student loans are literally predatory loans. They were designed to accrue a bunch of interest on the front side while we're in school and then apply all of our payments to that interest rather than part of it to the principal, so you can never pay them down. That's why there's a bunch of millennials who have never missed a payment on their student loans for well over a decade and owe more than what they took out. So that's been a little stressful, a little callous on us. So was that not enough character building? Guess not, since y'all decided to tank the economy into the biggest recession since the Great Depression right as we're entering the workforce. Kind of hard to get that good job to pay off all those student loans that you told us to take out when you made sure that there weren't any jobs. And then it just became a running joke that you needed a doctorate and 20 years of experience for this entry-level position paying $10 an hour. And that's not even being hyperbolic. That's the kind of shit that we were expected to apply for. That's the jobs that you made available to us. So thanks again. Oh, and part of the reason all of these jobs sucked so bad is because you guys spent decades gutting the unions that you benefited from. Your parents and grandparents built unions that allowed you privileged little assholes to be D- high school dropouts and still get a job pulling a lever in some factory that allowed you to buy a house in the suburbs, have a stay-at-home wife, 2 cars, and 3 kids. Now y'all get to retire on your pensions that don't exist anymore. Well, we have a 0.5% match 401k we can't even can afford to contribute to. Oh, and while we're on the topic of the recession, why did we have that again? Had nothing to do with you guys voting to deregulate the banking industry, right? And then you guys taking out a bunch of subprime loans to buy shit you couldn't afford. Y'all filing bankruptcy because you couldn't afford all your stupid financial decisions, and then, just sending us the bill. Isn't that kind of how it went down? I feel like that's kind of how it went down. So now not only do we need to worry about our own financial hardships, but we got to worry about paying back all of your economic ups, from the Reagan tax cuts to banking deregulation to the Bush tax cuts to 20 years of war to Trump tax cuts. Now you're acting like it's our fault that 25% of millennials need help from their parents to keep a roof over their head. I suppose the dementia fog's a little too thick for you to remember what the average house cost was when you were a first-time home buyer. It was about $82,000. If home prices had matched inflation, the average house should cost less than $200,000. I don't know if you scrolled through Zillow lately, but the average house price is $428,000. Now, over the last 30 years, house prices have gone up over 300%. Inflation-adjusted median income has gone up 17%. In fact, by the numbers, millennials are statistically the most unlucky generation financially in U.S. history. Being that, objectively, by the numbers, our generation has dealt with more stress and callous than people like you could even fathom. Is it enough, or do we need some more? And now I get that this bootstrap bullshit rhetoric that y'all are constantly spewing makes you feel better about the fact that you were handed absolutely everything in life, and yet all you managed to accomplish was setting the world on fire. But we're gonna need you to shut the hell up about it and get the out of the way so we can try to fix your mess. Or we're gonna need you to provide some hard data, some hard facts, maybe some charts, showing, at what point that we've experienced enough stress, enough callous, where house prices literally get cut in half and our wages exceed the cost of living. Or we can pay for college tuition with a summer job that mostly involves just getting high in the supply closet of a McDonald's. Because honestly, we are all sick and tired of listening to people like you run your mouths trying to come up with every possible way to blame us for the consequences of your mistakes.